Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali kulli wa sahbi kulli ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa akhlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Welcome again in another session of exploring the Quranic wisdom, delving into the ocean of the Quranic knowledge. So yesterday we went over a quick overview of the Quranic studies. The day before, we were discussing that we don't truly engage with Quran and appreciate and respect the Quran because we're not studying. But then when we look at the history, we find out that Muslim scholars did indeed pay attention a lot to the Quran and develop various disciplines to study Quran in depth. But when we look at the historical one, we find out that the type of studies, the way they study varied from time to time. First of all, we find out that over time, as the Muslims community expanded, they had to go and study more deeply about the language itself to essentially understand the coded divine message in the Quranic words. And so therefore we saw a special attention given to the linguistic side, the balagha side later on. And we see the early times that the emphasis was mostly around the rivaya, is around, what they heard, what they know from the others. And also the other things that we observe, that every age in a way approached to the Quran to find out solution to their own problems. And given the problem change from time to time, that we see the emphasis on the understanding of the Quran change as well. But one thing we noticed that when we covered this, we find out in last, let's say, at least 200-300 years, there is a kind of stagnation, and there's now an attempt of revivalism, but there's kind of stagnation in really getting this deep meaning from the Quran and updating let's say, the prescription from the Quran. So in this regard, if we use an analogy, we can say Quran is like a pharmacy, but given the disease of the time, that everyone could get a different prescription and different medicine from that pharmacy. And all of them is from Quran, and all of them is true. But again, it can vary because the needs of the time could be different. And after a session yesterday, there was a good dialogue in WhatsApp groups. And I think the key point was like, how can we really have such a new understanding to address our modern problems, the problem of our time? And obviously there was a few interesting posting, one from Brother Othman as well, emphasizing that we do need such scholarly work in our time to go to the Quran and deeply study the Quran and try to find and offer solution. And particularly, he was emphasizing the problem we get through materialism, through secularism, in knowledge, in education. And he was saying, like, we need to go to the Quran and have a new prescription to see how we're going to deal with that. And I think I can say as a side note that what we do as a 5D thinking, it's essentially is one of such attempt to see how we can deal with this embedded ideology in knowledge and how we can go to the Quran and get this Quranic principle, guidance, and worldview and find answer to the questions of our time. But I think we need to be patient. That is going to take time, and because we have to first get good connection with Quran and good understanding, and that's the reason we have this Quranic studies together. And if you particularly are interested in finding such solution, we strongly recommend that you carefully follow our session, inshallah, and we're going to continue our journey, inshallah, after the Ramadan as well, to see how we can, in a way, build up a movement that we can go to the Quran and study the Quran and approach the Quran and try to find out the solution to our modern time. And I think that was my understanding, from yesterday and from the discussion on WhatsApp group. I don't know, Dr. Ali, would you like to add anything? Did I miss any point before we
Yeah,
start?
a beautiful summary. So, and an introduction as well. Thank you very much. And we will just continue our job. What to do now? You say, here we are. Every reader must have a definition. We talked at the closing part of the yesterday's discussion. So the definitions varies according to the purpose of reading and the reader's capacity. What you are expecting. If you just got of course, if you think that you got flu, for example, or a cold, so you are under the weather, then you get medicine accordingly. But if you think that somebody has, God forbid, cancer, and he will look for a solution for medicine, your beautiful analogy of medicine, accordingly. What do you think? What do you feel? What do you feel that you need? Accordingly, you will approach the Quran. So we have to, first of all, check ourselves. What do I need? So accordingly, we will have an attitude towards the Quran and connect with the Quran to look for it, to look for the medicine for my disease. So uh, we are suggesting here uh, some definitions of the Quran. So pay attention to how the Quran should be read. What are we expecting from the Quran? Are we expecting from the Quran to tell us what is the Sunnah prayer, whether Taraweeh prayer is Sunnah or not, or what? What are we expecting? So here are some definitions.
And let me add it a little bit more, Dr. Ali, before you started this definition. Like some question, you got to, should I look at the Quran to discover some scientific theory, or should I look at the Quran to develop good engineering solution, or should I look at the Quran to find medicine if I am physician? What is that? How should I perceive the Quran? Which type of book the Quran is that in which I should really look at? I think that's really our core question, right?
Yep. So thank you. Thank you. Yes, let's go into the definitions of the Quran. First, I'm benefiting from the later generation commentators, especially Said Nursi, emphasizing on the Quran's understanding of the Quran as far as the existential problems are concerned. You know, what is the reality of this world? Why am I here? What am I expected to do here? Now, what is the purpose of existing in this world? And what is the purpose of having these kind of qualities? So all these problems of this age, in a simple way, put it in a simple way, if God created me, why did he create me? What am I, what is he expecting of me? We cannot say just by repeating the phrases that God created us to worship him. Does he need worship? These kind of questions are our daily questions. Everyone is asking, especially new generations are left without any answer, satisfactory answer. We cannot say that here is the verse, ayah from the Quran. God says God created you to worship him. That's it. You have to worship him. And he keeps asking questions. Does he need my worship? And there's a problem. These kind of problems should be answered. So accordingly, let's say what the Quran or what the definition of the Quran is. First, in an umbrella term, it is a cosmic interpreter. What does it mean? So this means the Quran's relationship with the universe and the unseen. Now, how are we going to combine them together, integrate them together? So the translator of the universe. What? Quran is a translator of the universe. Now, Dr. Najati touched up, are we looking or reading the Quran in order to find out new scientific discoveries? Or what are we expected to do? Translator of the universe. Now, the divine speech, translating the mighty book of the universe into a spoken language. Now, from the very beginning, we have to understand that very simple, basic understanding is Quran says, I am the speech of the creator of the universe. Universe says, I have a creator and I cannot explain it to you. I cannot put it in a verbal form that you can understand. Now, this approach combines these two and says, read the Quran from the perspective of its speaker as the creator of the universe. And also read the universe from the perspective of its creator and try to combine them together. Now, what is the mighty book of the universe? The universe is a book, meaningful creation. So Quran transfers it into a spoken language. Let's see what the Quran says about it.
Dr. Ali, can we go back again? Let's give a little further clarification before you give an example. So when we say the translator, we know, like, first of all, translator means that there is some things written in another language that you're translating from this unknown language, let's say from Arabic to English. That is, let's say, we say English translation of the Quran. So here we're saying that the Quran is the translator of the book of the universe, which means the universe is a book, but its language is not clear to us. And the Quran make this language to be accessible to us. So in this case, that we really need to, or, we look at the universe not as a book. We look at the universe as an object. We see there are trees, there are stones, there are river. So it's first things we need to see how we can perceive it as a book. How did we get this idea that the universe is a book? Then second, we need to say, if it's a book, why can't I just read it? Why I need to have a translation? In which language this book is written? Then the third will be, okay, then how the Quran translate this book into the language that I can understand? If you can a little elaborate on this, that would be really great.
Now, as we are seeing here, I highlighted, the cosmic interpreter is mirror witnessing. What does it mean? Translator of the silent speech of the universe into spoken human language that the human beings can understand. Of course, we don't mean the Quran is a human language. No, speaking in a language that the human beings can understand. It means spoken language. This verse explains this and says that the Quran is what we say here is the translator of the universe. Let's see, hear the beautiful recitation of the verse, inshallah.
سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أولم يكف بربك أنه على كل شيء شهيد.
Now, this is the verse. The meaning, we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves, until it becomes clear to them that the verbal expression of the Quran is the truth. Is it not enough that your Lord witnesses everything? This is the Fussilet, Surah Fussilet, 41st Surah, 53, Ayat 53. Now, there are interesting words here. We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves. It means look at the universe, look at your own being, bodily and also your senses, until it becomes clear to them that the Quran is the truth. What does it mean? I haven't read any exception for it. Here, the Quran says, the ayah says, until it becomes clear that it is the truth. All scholars agree, as far as I know. There may be some disagreement, I am not aware of it. It refers to the Quran, speech of the Quran. The witness is itself. Now, isn't that enough to your Lord witnesses everything? What does it mean? God witnesses everything? So I wrote some notes here. Inshallah, we will go there. Now, Shaheed, in the original language, here it is, ala kulli shayin shahid. The original language, Shaheed, means not only the one who witnesses, but incessantly, ceaselessly, constantly witnessing. What does it mean? The creation is taking place in such a way, sorry. I wanted to highlight this. The creation is taking place in such a way that God is demonstrating his qualities constantly, ceaselessly, by creating and sustaining everything. Thus, witnessing that the speech, the Quran, is the truth. Now, of course, in classical studies, our scholars, Shaheed and Mashhud, the Quran says, two words uses. One of them is Shaheed, the one who witnesses. Mashhud is the one who is witnessed. Now, in this particular verse, says God is Shaheed. It is so important to understand that God's witnessing the truthfulness of the Quran this is very important. This integration between the creation and the universe is really locked in this word, Shaheed. So God is witnessing what he says in the Quran as true by creating the universe, manifesting it to us, and he says, I am the witness. Of course, we cannot think of God's essence, that God is looking at the universe. No, it is impossible to think. Quran speaks from human perspective. So God is witnessing, demonstrating the evidence, testimony that what I say is true. How? Creating the universe and introducing his qualities manifested in the universe. And when you study the universe, of course, not the materialist or secularist scientists do, when you study the universe, you realize that what the Quran describes as to be the creator of the universe, exactly what the universe is witnesses to it. Now, this integration, this intermingling between the Quran and the creation is inevitable. If someone takes the Quran in his hand and reads it or listens to it, depending on what you are doing, so reads or listens to it, he must bear in mind that my creator and the creator of the universe is speaking to me now, explaining me what is the reality of creation, why he has created the universe and me within it with an uh, infinite human feelings, capacity. Why does he do that? So this word, God is Shahid, must be understood correctly, especially in our age.
Dr.
Otherwise, it
Dr. Ali?
doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is very, very important point in terms of really look at the wording to see the message there. So in a way that basically the Quran is saying, I'm going to show the ayah in Afaq and Anfus until that you absolutely become sure about the truthfulness of the Quran itself. But then, as you mentioned, it says, isn't God enough for you as a witness? Now, in this case, basically, it's all about when you make certain claim, you need evidence. Let's say we say there is a God. How do we know there is a God? So I remember once I had a discussion with an atheist friend. He said, look, I will go to Sajda if your God now makes from water a fly in front of my eyes. That will become miracle and it will be sign and I will go to Sajda. And I reflect on it. I said, what he was asking is really necessary. You need to see miracle, means you need to see unequivocal evidence of God to actually submit to him. How would you see that? Oh, look around. Every creation is a miracle.
Yeah.
Every fly is a miracle. Every plant is a miracle. So in this regard, what you're saying that basically the Quran is saying, oh, this is word of God. Here is proof. Is not saying that. He say this is the word of God. The proof is his act in the creation.
Yeah.
Reflect on the creation and you will see the sign of creator and you can reach absolute certainty. So in this regard, as you mentioned, is absolutely essential to see the connection between the creation and studying the creation and the revelation and studying and understanding the Quran. And I think that is very clear. I want to really reflect more on this ayah, but I actually had a polling question. Let's ask our audience to see what they think on this subjects. Then we'll continue on this ayah because this is, I think, very deep. I have some more question on this. I guess you will have even more on this ayah. If you,
Shall we have the poll after completing studying this verse?
Okay, that's fine. We
Yeah,
could do.
because
So
it
then,
will
then
make
let me ask you this question. So you see that my question was that if you say the Quran is a translator, then you need to prove it the universe is the book. Now, in this ayah, it says "Sanurihim ayatina." The ayah here refer to also the Quran. We use ayah refer to the sentence of the Quran itself. So can we use this as a sign that Quran treating the universe as a book? Therefore, use the phrase of ayah, referring both to the verses in the Quran and the sign in the universe.
as your example of the friend who asked you or expected that God is going to create bird, for example, in front of his eyes, and then he will speak, he will believe in God. It is a very wrong understanding of belief in God. It is he wants to know it. I will give a lot of examples, many times repeated, the same example. I love the example of the piece of art. If someone looks at the art, any precious art, for example, and they say this is made by someone else, then if someone tells you that, no, I won't believe until I saw the man the artist who is doing this, then I will believe that this piece of art has an artist. It is meaningless. It is just pointless. The reality of the world is like that. But we will look at the piece of the art and conclude that this art must have an artist because the material elements of the piece of art cannot make it. This is a very simple, straightforward, and easy understanding example. So let me, shall I go back to the to complete this verse? And meshud, shahid requires meshud. Now, what is meshud is when you look at the mirror, the universe, you are physically and sensually witnessing the attributes of this maker as it is described in the Qur'an. You can see the relationship. His qualities are always observed by the conscious beings. Now, because of the siyak sibak, it means before and after what the verses are coming, the verses come before, verses come after, are related to those who are in doubt and deny the truth. Now, so after within the context of those people who are in doubt, so Quran says, God is demonstrating his evidence to you. Why don't you look at it? The universe is mashhud, so you can see it. So that because truth is ghaibi, it means refers to, you will understand that the necessity of the artist is seen in the way that the piece of art is made. So, as your friend said, I want to see it. Don't you see the piece of art? That demonstrates that it has an artist. And the qualities of the art demonstrates the qualities of the artist. Okay. Another thing came to my mind, the famous hadith narration. Here it is. لولاك لولاك لما خلقت الأفلاك. Sorry. Some people say it is not hadith. All right, doesn't matter. All scholars agree that although it may be hadith narration or not, doesn't matter, but the meaning is absolutely true. What does it mean? Let's study this, and it's related to this matter. Were it not for you, if it wasn't for you, were it not for you, the twice, I would not have created the celestial spheres, the universe. Simple. If it wasn't for you, O Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, I wouldn't create the universe. What does it mean? Oh, for the sake of a person, the universe is created. Muhammad is the messenger of God who brought the Quran or received the Quran and transfer it to us. So Muhammad is abduhu wa rasuluhu, is a human being like you and me, but messenger. If the Muhammad wasn't messenger, who cares about? Who will know him now? Because of the message he brought. So what we will understand now, because of the message the prophets bring to us, deliver to us. The universe is created. Why? The message need witness. The universe is witnessing the truthfulness of the message. So if there was no message, there would be no need for the evidence. If there is a message, there must be a universe. So that is why they necessitate each other. This connection is beautifully described in this sentence. That was amazing for me, and I wanted to share it with you. Yes, Dr. Nejati, you
Yeah,
can.
I think, yeah, I think this is very, amazing point in a way that, so we're saying that the proof for the Quran and the proof for the Quran's primary message, which is Tawheed, is God Himself. How? By act of creation. And therefore, it's really interesting. And the very first I want to reveal اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق ربك الذي خلق. There I find out that essentially saying read, again read, and that reading the creation. And when you read that, what you're going to find, you find the creator الذي خلق through his act of creation. So in this case, that as long as we look at the creation and see the acts of creation and realize that that flower, that bird, that apple cannot make itself, cannot come from the material causes, then now we will see this must be the act of creator. He revealed himself through his creative acts. And that is going to give me yaqeen. And I remember I used to think maybe you can read Quran and the Quran can prove itself. In other words, the Quran itself is the proof. But no, what I realized that no, Quran cannot prove. The Quran need the creation to prove its point. So therefore, this ayah clearly says that you need to look at the sign in yourself and in the universe that you can be sure about the Quran. So let me release the poll question to see what our audience are thinking. It's because it's very relevant to what we're discussing, and also be good to see whether they're following what we're discussing. The question is, in your view, what is necessary to attain certainty, yaqeen, in belief in God? Reflection on creation alone may be sufficient. The Quran alone is sufficient. Reflection on creation is not necessary. Both the Quran and reflection on creation are necessary. I'm not sure. Okay.
No, I don't know. Is it possible to put that my human senses are enough, sufficient?
Yeah, I think
It just came to my mind.
that is like part of first one, right? Yeah.
Reflection on creation, your own creation alone.
Yeah, alone. That's what I'm saying.
Most of people nowadays say that the human senses are enough to get the truth.
No need for revelation, they will say, right?
Yeah, that's what they mean.
Yeah. So in other words, they think we're very intelligent. We have a mind. We can think and find the answer to our questions. Yeah, mashallah. I think you see that so almost everyone goes with the third option. And there's, I think 2, 3 other answers, but that's good. I think that's a good sign that I think it's because we were discussing the subjects for like 20, 30 minutes. And I think that means it's understood well, right? Dr. Ali, I can end it now and we
Yes,
can
the
continue, inshallah.
majority of our friends here are aware of the need, the connection between the Quran and the creation, or the speech of the verbal speech of the Creator and action-wise speech of the Creator. We will emphasize on it even more, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yes.
Okay.
Please
Thank
continue.
you.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Let's continue, inshallah. Now, here. Oh,
Okay. Yeah, it's closed. Continue,
okay.
please.
Now, translator of the silent speech of the universe was the first and most important definition of the Quran, and also not only translating, interpreting the universe. One of the definition of the Quran is, now they are not excluding each other. No, just adding up. This aspect is also to be found in the Quran. So, interpreter of the universe, I found out this verse in the Quran here. Now, Surah Isra, ayah 44. Let's listen to it.
تسبح له السماوات السبع والأرض ومن فيهن وإن من شيء إلا يسبح بحمده ولكن لا تفقهون تسبيحهم إنه كان حليما غفورا.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Beautiful verse. Now, the translation, the seven heavens and the earth and all within them, everything, every single being, glorify him. There is nothing except that it glorifies him with praise. But you don't understand their glorification. You don't understand their glorification. So I have some questions. Is glorifying God, it is, I don't want to take a lot of time, but you know that everything declares the glory of Tesbih. It means absoluteness of the Creator, or the absoluteness of the qualities of the Creator. Why? Everything is created within the connection of everything else within the universe. The one who is not able to create the universe cannot create even an atom. Why? Everything is integrated with within each other, and also everybody is aware of it nowadays, now with the scientists' discoveries, that nothing can be isolated from the rest of the universe. Most of the trick that secularist scientists use is this. We should never miss this point. They isolate, put it in a lab, limited conditions, and study, for example, a cell structure or a piece or the part of a cell. I say, this is acting in this way. But it is acting in this way, not only within the interaction of the rest of the other cells of the body. It is within the connection of the whole universe, whole system, order of the universe acts in this way. Can it have the qualities to do that? It is just dumb matter. Does it have any quality? It has to be as it is created. It is put like a brick. I mean, let's say a living brick within a building of human body. But it has to be in this way. It has no free will to choose otherwise. So glorification means every single being in the universe declares that the one who created me with his power, with his knowledge, with his free will, with his wisdom, mercy, whatever you say, arrangement, giving shape and balancing, creating in a symmetrical way, perfectly arranged everything, can only the one who created the universe. And the one who created the universe cannot be described within the conditions of the universe. Every single being is our property. We, unfortunately, historically, and this is not wrong, by the way, but not complete, sufficient. We respect Quran, okay, and always we try not to touch the Mus'haf without wudu. It means in a sacred position. We are very much sensitive about it. Correct, not wrong. How about touching the universe without wudu? What does it mean? Haram. It means a sacred being. Unfortunately, we cannot expect other followers of the other religions to respect and see the universe as a sacred being, as a trust to us from the creator of the universe, like the Quran is. So when we look at the universe, we say it's something, just matter. Forget about it. Forget about the world. Now, the Quran is enough for us. Then do you think God, Allah, created the universe for nothing? There are many threats in the Quran. Do you think I do some idle work here for nothing? The universe it means nothing for you? If there was no universe, that is what we have to realize, our friends. If there was no universe, there would be no need for God to speak to us. Why? There is no witness. There is no evidence. And also, if there was no universe, I would never be satisfied what the Quran says. There is a being who is the absolute being, infinite being. I don't know what. What are they talking about? So, without the universe, Quran cannot be confirmable. Without the Quran, universe cannot be understood perfectly, exactly why it was created. So this glorification of the universe introduces the absoluteness of its creator. Now, and also
Dr. Ali, let me a little bit emphasize that part before you move on. So the way I look at this ayah, تسبح is tasbih in as if everything says Subhanallah, everything says Allahu Akbar, as if everything is actually speaking. Because the Quran is telling me that, pay attention. The tree, the flowers, the birds, the water, the rain, everything make tasbih. So the tasbih here, in this case, is not like speaking in our language, but tasbih here is revealing unequivocal evidence for the Creator. So in other words, whatever you study, you find the sign lead to the Creator. I remember once a teacher, Muslim teacher, asked me this. She said, a Muslim student saying, we pray, we do fasting, but what happened when I die and find out there is no God? And the teacher was saying, can you provide one convincing evidence I can share with the student? And my answer was, there is nothing in the universe which is not convincing evidence that lead to the Creator. And that's ayah essentially saying, whether you get a little dust, you study that, or you get the cell, you study that, or you look at the stars, you are going to see the sign of infinite power, infinite knowledge. And that's how you reach to the yaqeen. So in this regard, I think it is really essential to see the necessity of seeing the sign in creation and be sure about the revelation that we get through the Quran.
thank you. So this glorification and praising uh, is the artist's way that the Quran is telling us, pay attention to the creation and see how they are glorify its creator, which is me. So that is one. Another aspect of the this ayah is with argued. by our scholars a lot. لا تفقهون تسبيحهم. This part of the verse. ولكن تفتحوا لا
تفقهون.
تفقهون تسبيحهم.
آه.
But say, no, we don't understand. Now let's come to my notes here. Now, what are the things doing here? I asked the question about concerning this ayah. Sorry. Sorry, my handicap in technology. So about this verse, the same ayah we are studying here. What are the things they are doing? Ayah says glorifying him. The Quran is interpreting the silent speech of the universe, praising his qualities exuberantly. It means, excited way. So that is what hamd, bihamdihi means. Now, you don't understand. That's what, but you don't understand. The Quran says, but you don't understand. It means, since I am not able to understand, if it meant that, so why do you tell me that they are glorifying God? So we have to notice that the Quran, of course, we have to read carefully the language of the Arabic, language of the Quran carefully. Quran doesn't say you cannot understand. It says you don't understand. Be careful. You know why you don't understand? Um, I will explain to you. But they are signs of infinite qualities. Now, rather than speaking, I wrote it down so that carefully watch highlighted parts that I am showing on the screen. They are signs of infinite qualities. And you cannot encompass the essence of infinity, but you can only understand its necessary existence. So in the Quran, always belief is described as believing in ghaib. What does it mean? English translation is ridiculous and wrong, definitely unseen. No, I'm not going to look for a way that I can see it. Nothing to do with seeing at all. So ghaib means not unseen. Now, because its nature is not exactly like the universe, you cannot really see it. You cannot see it. You cannot describe the essence. For example, by looking at a telephone, everybody has a telephone nowadays. Can you describe the engineer of the telephone? Only you know that this telephone definitely, I know the material side of it as it is in front of me and the program in it. It cannot exist by itself. It is so, the material side is stupid. So there must be an engineer, and the quality is manifested in the telephone, in the machine of the telephone, or a program, demonstrates the knowledge of the creator, knowledge of the engineer, power of the engineer, qualities of the engineer as far as the engineering is concerned. Of course, this is a telephone, human-made telephone. So we look at the universe and we can only understand that the universe must have a creator whose power must be infinite, whose knowledge must be infinite, whose wisdom must be infinite, whose free will must be infinite, boundless. This is belief. So we have to make sure, that we are believing in ghaib. What does it mean? necessary existence of the ghaib. So let me complete this and
Yeah, Doctor, let's be, because I just want to, add something on the ghaib part to make sure we really get it very well. So in this case, ghaib essentially means that to understand, if we go from your examples of the phone, to understand the engineer and the phone are two different entity, and therefore you never look inside the phone for the engineer because engineer is not type of the phone. So in this regard, that engineer is outside the phone, not within the phone. But you believe there must be engineer, but you also believe that that engineer is not the type of the phone. Otherwise, you will say, oh, the phone make itself. So in this regard, that when we look at the creation, the universe, makhluk and khaliq, believe in ghaib to say khaliq is different than makhluk, and therefore it's not within the creation, and that's what we believe. But we look at his sign and his attribute and quality reflected in the creation. That's, I think, what I understood from the concept of ghaib.
Thank you. It's a beautiful summary of what we are studying. So you can conclude definitely that they must be infinite. It means the qualities of the creator must be infinite. That is belief in God. You don't understand means because of the infinite nature of the qualities of the creator, you cannot comprehend, you cannot encompass fully the infinite. No one can encompass, and no one can claim that we can understand infinite. But we know that the creator must be infinite. That's his belief. That's what Qur'an is expecting the readers to understand, inshallah. So, speech of the creator, the third definition. Shall we jump into that one?
Though I think we have less time. I think there was some comment or questions. Nurbanu, is there any comment or question you want to bring to our attention in the chat? I think there were like some comments, some question. Maybe you can bring it here and we can ask Dr. Ali to address that.
In principle, we are not ignoring our friend's questions, but we are choosing. We have to choose. Many questions are asked, so we have to choose what are related to the majority of the people's needs. That is why some people may think that I raised a question here, I wrote a question, and there is no answer to it. They shouldn't feel offended. They're neglected. No, but we have to be selective. All right.
Yeah, Nurbanu, you can go ahead and just read it to us. I think there are two questions. Let's listen.
Yeah, one question came from, it's in the chat so everyone can read along if they'd like, from Maha. If creation is meant to be so spellbinding, rendering onlookers with awe and filling them with awareness about God, then why doesn't it feel like that? Looking at the universe does not usually or necessarily lead to feelings of faith. It's not an automatic response at all.
Okay, let's get this one first, then we go to the next one. Yes, Dr. Ali, what would you say? So in other words, she's saying that like you're talking about the creation as if there are unequivocal evidence, but when you look at it, you don't really see it that way. What would you say? Do you think that's because of the secular education that we look at the creation? That's the remind me this. They're covering up the sign, I guess. I don't know what you want to say.
I mean, depending on you have a free will. You use it, you intentionally or not use it. If you look at the universe with no intention, with the inquiry, why is it there? Why does it exist there? Why I need, for example, this one or that one? Why am I always breathing? Who's arranged this atmosphere and my lung and my body and blood system, blood circulation system, cleaning needed? Who is arranging that? I will say one phrase. If someone doesn't have the question, doesn't have the answer.
I want to add this, Dr. Ali. I think it could be also that through the secular education, they, in a way, indoctrinate us, blind us to read them as an answer, or they give a false answer as if there is no question, there is no need for even asking any question. Because if you say a flower talks about creator, they say, no, no, I can explain scientifically. There's a DNA, there's a molecules, there's atoms, there's a laws, there's a forces. I can tell you from the beginning of the universe how it has happened. So to me is that the secular education of attributing the act of creator to the cause or laws or nature is in a way blinding us to really see the creation as a sign. I guess my feeling when I read her comment, I said, maybe because of the education, maybe you're not seeing that. I don't know. Allah Alam.
We have to watch out. Yes, we have to
Yes.
question. We have to watch out.
Uh,
And what are they claiming is true or not? That's what we are here and learning how to question, how to really challenge these false fabricated interpretations of the creation. But of course, historically, I understand our friend Maha. Historically, we have been taught that Quran is enough for us. Quran is enough for us. We have not read. Unfortunately, historically, there was no need. Our scholars have not read the Quran alongside with observing the universe. They have not enough benefited from the witnessing of the Quran in order to understand the Quran and make comment on it. They have left, especially after the 12th century, uh, unfortunately, after the 12th century, studying the universe was left out from Islamic education system, madrasa. Only Quran and fiqh, especially hadith narrations, predominated fiqh matters for practical reasons that people need to learn how to practice their religion. But of course, it is time now, let alone practicing the religion. People are not satisfied with what the religion is proposing to them because of this background mistake. That's denying the fundamentals of belief. So we have to recover ourselves and read the Quran alongside with the universe. Impossible separation.
Very good.
Yeah.
The second question. Nurbanu, go ahead, please, with the other question.
Yeah, this is kind of related. One of our participants wanted to disagree about the self-sufficiency of the Quran. They said Quran is all that is needed, and the Prophet was a full manifestation of the Quran as Sayyidah Aisha described him.
No one said, and I don't agree, that the Quran is not self-sufficient. Impossible. As everything, every single being in the universe declares that my creator must be an absolute being. So universe says my creator must be an absolute being. The Quran says the one who speaks me must be an absolute creator. They are witnessing to each other is not, that doesn't mean one of them is insufficient. They are witnessing to each other. That's why we are here to learn how to combine the message of the Quran with the message of the universe, combining in order to witness the truthfulness of each other. Quran witnesses the true nature of the universe. Universe witnesses the truthfulness of the message of the Quran. They are inseparable, integral pairs. Pairs. That is what we are saying. Now,
So in other words,
self-sufficient is wrong.
yeah,
Yeah.
in other words, we're not saying the Quran is not sufficient. We're saying that it's not sufficient for us to reach the yaqeen unless we study the Quran and the universe together. That's our point. So in other words, we need this evidence, and the universe provide the evidence to give us to affirm what the Quran says. They complement each other. They, in a way, they basically bear witness to each other. So I think that was the point we try to communicate. I think that's all for today. It's already 5 o'clock. Let me briefly summarize, and then we can, inshallah, continue tomorrow. So today we mainly focus on the two definition of the Quran, in a way that how we should perceive the Quran as a book. And one we says the Quran is the translator of the book, of the mighty book of the universe. The second we said the Quran is the interpreter of this, of the universe. So not only translating that's something that's not understood to us, and also give the meaning to them and help us to understand in a way is a tafsir, making the tafsir of the creation and help us to understand how everything make tasbih of him, how everything become the sign and evidence for him. And in this regard that we mentioned, it's impossible to separate the Quran from creation. We need to read the Quran along with the creation.
Okay.
And we should study the creation along with through the light of the Quran. So that's, I think, was the summary point of what we discussed today. And then inshallah, we will hear the dua from you, Dr. Ali, and we will continue our discussion tomorrow.
Inshallah, the speech of the Creator, what does it mean? Discoverer of the divine names. Also, what does it mean? Anyways, we will study tomorrow, inshallah. And I appreciate the questions. Both questions were irrelevant and not the one who asked the question. It is not unique to this person. It is mostly talked about or asked questions. So we appreciate that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. إنك أنت العليم الحكيم أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amen. Shukran. Thank you very much. And see you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
وعليكم السلام.